Hey, what's up, everyone? You're listening or watching a My Comic Book Journey, episode 3. And this one will be about Superman, issue 21 from September 1988. Now, during the 80s, I guess you could say they call it Volume 2 of Superman. Um, I've been slowly reading, I guess you could say, this volume. And one of the things that I do like about it is that one of my favorite artists and writers, John Byrne, is was in charge of Superman at the time. And in this very issue, number with issue 21, just by looking at the cover, you could see a cape and the red boots, and automatically it's going to be Supergirl, right? But the thing is, Supergirl, of course, was killed in Crisis of Infinite Earths, and it was I have to say that was probably one of the shocking deaths, that came from that special, I guess you could say, what is the word for it now? I forgot what you call it. Anyway, it's when with all the issues. I know I have the trade paperback, but when I first read it back then, and I had several of the comic books, I just remembered it being such a shock because I actually grew up reading the Superman and Supergirl comic books that came in like these little digest formats. My parents would buy me these comic books, but of course, comic books could be very expensive, so they would get them in these digest formats. And what I liked about them is that you would get several comic book. I guess this is predates a lot of the in the major trade. Well, I don't want to say predates because trade paperbacks have been around for quite a while. Because I remember being in school and checking them out in the library. But I guess these were more miniature versions, probably about what, 5 inches or so. But yeah, it was something that I would read, and one of the spotlights on these issues were, I think it was the Legion of Superheroes, and they would have ones about Supergirl or Superman or Superboy, and the Supergirl ones, of course, were typical of the storylines back then. I think it was Linda Danvers. Is that no? Or am I could get that name wrong. Let me look up the name because I do not think there's so many names popping up in my head from different comic books. But yes, Supergirl is Linda Danvers, so that's good to know. Let me go back here. See, Linda Danvers. Okay, that's Justice League. And if I recall, wasn't... Well, Kara, of course. Kara Zor-El. So yeah, Kara Zor-El, also known as Linda Lee Danvers. But yeah, she was definitely one of my favorite female superheroes growing up because that was what was available that for me to read at the time, as a kid. And I think thanks to my parents for buying me those digests. I just remembered that I absolutely loved reading those growing up. But for the most part, what this issue is about is that let me bring this cover up here. But so you had Superman, right? And he's just flying around and doing his thing, but then someone is pretty much following him. Don't want to use the word like stalk, but she's just following him, and he's just wondering, who the heck is this? And using his super hearing to hear the heartbeat, he surmises that it's a female. So when he catches the person from behind, he's surprised to find a person wearing the Supergirl costume, or a female version of the Superman costume, that is. So he's shocked when first he sees a blonde person, but as he gets closer to her, he sees the red hair and realizes it's his Smallville friend or girlfriend, Lana Lang, and she told him that she got her powers from Lex Luthor. So this is a little confusing, and unfortunately, when Superman talks badly about Lex Luthor, she gets very upset and pretty much Supergirl blast Superman with a telekinetic blast, but he realizes she does not have the same Kryptonian powers, and she could change herself to become invisible, and she's very much different. So what he ended up doing is that he flies back home to Smallville really quickly, and when he goes there, he sees Lana Lang with his parents, and they're tied up. And they were told that they were tied up by a Supergirl, and he realizes that something weird is going on, because there's two Lana Langs. One is a Supergirl version, so pretty much he finds a way to meet up with Supergirl, and he takes her to certain individuals, and I don't want to say any more than that, to prove that the people that she's talking about are not the people that he knows, and perhaps she came from a different world. So I'll just leave it at that. So I don't want to reveal too much, but people have to realize back in 1988, this was during the time of, again, Crisis of Infinite Earths, and if I recall, 1985. So this was released in 1988. In 1985, she died, and people probably remember the cover by George Perez of Crisis on Infinite Earths number 7, where Superman is holding a dead Supergirl. It's probably one of the biggest shocking storylines of that era to read. According to Marv Wolfman, who wrote Crisis of Infinite Earths, he said, before Crisis, it seemed that half of Krypton had survived the explosion. We had Superman, Supergirl, Krypto, the Phantom Zone criminals, the bottled city of KNDY, and many others. Our goal was to make Superman unique. We went back to his origin and made Kal-El the only survivor of Krypton. That sadly was why Supergirl had to die. However, we were thrilled by all the letters we received saying Supergirl's death in Crisis was the best Supergirl story they ever read. Thank you. By the way, I miss Kara too. And of course, as many of you know, Supergirl is back. There has been so many incarnations of the DC universe, and it's kind of I don't know. I guess in a way, there's. I understand what they were doing with Crisis of Infinite Earths, and it worked well for a very long time to have the one world, and she wouldn't. She'd be gone for a very long time. I think the next time she shows up, in 2004, but I think. I think the New 52, we had her come back again as DC rebooted the whole superhero titles, and then they relaunched it as the New 52, and then they had DC Rebirth. So in a way, my feeling about these different universes and deaths within a superhero, I just realized they're just going to come back. They're just going to come back, and nothing really stays for too long. I mean, deaths don't really stay that long. I will say, though, the only thing I was shocked about is that, and this is probably going off on a tangent, but it's the Spider-Man and Mary Jane Watson. How they were pretty much, I believe, weren't they married? And then Marvel decided, you know what? We'll have them forget. Similar to the movie, but in this version, it's just that, he pretty much had to sacrifice his relationship, and I think even to this day, they haven't gotten back together, but they have released these alternate world ones where he is married to her and they have a child, and so it's just really interesting. It's something that fans have been wanting, but it's just they were really sticking really hard. They have been sticking hard, and I don't know about now because things change so much. It's just I just say that with every year and every new reboot, the comic book landscape often changes. By the way, I'm trying to keep these at 15 minutes podcast. We're at 12 minutes right now, but I just want to say that, it's just it's the way I look at it is I try to look at it with optimism, because these comic books are no doubt made and tailored for the modern reader and those just getting into comic books or longtime fans. And for me, I'm a comic book fan that enjoys reading comic books from every decade and just enjoying it as it is. And I have to say, though, that the Supergirl from the 70s and 80s, the stories that I read that, capture that little corniness and zaniness of DC at the time, it's something that I can imagine that a lot of people, especially families, and as comics were tailored for children, probably gravitated towards. And when that Crisis of Infinite Earths happened and she had to die, man, I can only remember when Robin died, and they did that thing where people had to make phone calls to vote. And then when Superman died, and then Batman broke his back, and then the Spider-Man clone and all that stuff. It's just crazy. But anyway, this is part 1 of the Supergirl saga, and Superman issue 21, Supergirl returns, but not as the Linda Danvers, not as the Kara that we know of, but as Lana Lang. But how is that possible? You have to read the issue. Okay, everyone, you take care, and I'll see you later. Wink, wink, and okay, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.